Whatever you did, can you do it some more now? Swear you got me falling for your estimate. Whatever you get, can you take some more now?
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I just wanted to make a quick little video highlighting some of the dive footage that I took while I was in New Zealand. As you likely know from the last video, this dive was in part the reason why I didn't post anything for a couple of months, because unfortunately, as you'll see towards the end of this video, I've ruptured my eardrum. But that doesn't take away from the fact that this was an absolutely incredible dive. I saw so many new species while we were out there. We were very fortunate to be diving off of our friend Ben's boat. And you'll see a little bit here. We're sounding around looking for some yellowtail, which we didn't find. And I had this massive gun.
It's no joke loading that thing.
Which, as you can hear me say, is really tough to load. Because of course I've never used I believe this is a 120 millimeter gun, or maybe it was a 110. Anyway, it was a big piece of machinery. I dove straight to the bottom, saw that we were on sandy bottom. The viz was pretty crap, so I decided to go and do what I do best and swim over to the shoreline and see if I could get my hands on some inshore fish. So that's exactly what I did. Went over here. You'll see it's a kind of a short kelpy bottom. You can see all that silt in the water. By the way, I am hoping in the next 6 weeks or so to get a new GoPro, which is really exciting, a newer generation, so you guys will have even better video quality on these later videos. But I think the Hero 8 that I film with right now does a pretty good job. But now, hopefully soon, it'll become my backup camera. So this is a little school of fish I was just watching swim around, and right here you see what we call a butterfish in New Zealand. I would compare them to opali. They're a vegetarian fish that you see swimming around here, and they're one of the more delicious fish you can find. And I don't know how I missed that shot. As you can see, I sort of lined up right towards the head. I fired, I pull up, and as I get to the surface, I'm like, oh, it's not there.
My flopper didn't trigger.
So that was my suspicion, was that the
butterfish.
flopper didn't trigger.
The flopper didn't freaking trigger. Whatever. Next one.
The spear itself was a little bit on the rusty side, so I think that probably was partially to blame. It also could have been my aim. You never really know. I've had lots of videos where I've gone back and watched it 4 or 5 times, and I still don't know why I missed. There's another butterfish swimming over on the right. I just love how similar this environment is to Southern California in many ways. And that butterfish coming back again. I am too timid. I don't know why I didn't take that shot immediately. I'm struggling to swing this gun over. That fish right there with the bars is called a red moki. They aren't hugely populous in reefs. Usually there's only 1 or 2 in a given area, so lots of spear fishermen told me probably shouldn't take one, but butterfish, snapper, John Dory, they're all fair game. But on this dive, I think I just saw that butterfish. It gave me 2 chances to shoot it, and for some reason, I just didn't take my shot. So come back to the surface, going down for another dive. It was at this point that I was more focused on getting my hands on a crayfish, because on that last dive, I saw some crayfish kind of underneath me. So I went down to explore the rock shelves, and they were unbelievable to say the least. Just the structure down there was just surreal. There were all sorts of rock cracks and cavities that went back, 10, 20 feet in some spaces. You can see in there's a couple of crayfish sitting in there. And interestingly enough, the crayfish that we get in New Zealand are actually almost the same species that we get in Southern California. They don't have claws. They're kind of that red, orangish color. And they call them crayfish in New Zealand. There's another butterfish off in the distance. It's actually interesting. That's the 3rd or 4th butterfish I will have seen on this dive. And one of the guys who I was diving with, he said he didn't see any fish, although he was able to go home with 4 crayfish. And as you'll see here in a moment, I seem to be extremely good at blundering my ability to catch these crays. So I go down for another dive, farther down the shelf this time, just sort of exploring. And it's so breathtaking. I mean, you know, this thick kelp and the structure, that right there is a small snapper. So that's one of the more desirable fish out here, but that guy was probably only 6 inches long. So, you know, nothing to write home about, certainly not a legal fish. And I'm sort of looking over here to see if I can spot another butterfish. And then I think I have the decision where I'm like, okay, I'm going to go over this edge and see if I can find some more crayfish to check out. So I come over here, take a look, and of course, there you go. There's a little cray swimming away from me. I go down the rock face here, and it's just packed with crayfish. Look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 maybe crayfish sitting in this one spot, all just hanging out, sticking their antennas out. You'd think it would be an easy catch, but you know, I sort of go in for a grab and I grab the antenna, but I don't quite grab deep enough on the antenna. So unfortunately, as can happen in these situations, the antennas just tear off, which is, you know, it is unfortunate, but ultimately the crayfish gets to live another day. So it depends on how you look at it. But I gave up on that dive because I'd already been down for, you know, probably over a minute at that stage. So decided to come back up for surfacing. Took another attempt to see if I could find some more crays. It was just really challenging. I don't know. I kept missing the crays. But on this dive, I think I saw a couple sitting in a fairly open-looking crack. I think I had a couple opportunities. But look at that. It's just it's almost like pancakes of rock, because I believe in New Zealand a lot of these areas were volcanic. So you can see kind of how the rock just kind of poured into the water layer on layer. So we have these incredible chasms in between the rocks that all these crayfish hide in. You know, whereas I might go and dive in Southern California and see 1 or 2 crayfish, and there you go, oh, ripped off 2 antenna. Unfortunate. I might go diving somewhere in Southern California and see 1 or 2 crayfish or lobsters. Out here, you go out and you see 20. But of course, not all of them are going to be legal. So that was my attempt there. Managed to maim another lobster or crayfish, and took another look around to see if I could see another butterfish. But again, I missed that first opportunity, didn't take that second shot, which was just my mistake. And, you know, really regretting that today, but, you know, it happens. I also loving how long some of these dives were. I was really trained up. I had been doing a lot of practice dives in SoCal before we went out here, so I was super pumped up about diving. And you can really see that that's part of the reason why I ruptured my eardrum. I was just stupid about it. I was so eager to get back down to the bottom that I just pushed myself too far. Here I'm down in the middle of a crack, so you kind of see me swimming in between 2 rock faces. Unbeknownst to me, one of the guys that I was diving with had actually just swam through this crack. So you'll see a lobster here in a second just swim right past me. Crayfish. I keep saying the wrong thing. Anyway, that was that crayfish just swimming right past me because, of course, every cray had been spooked in this hole. So, you know, they were all swimming around me. But it was pretty cool. I think I got down to the end of this hole and I looked up and I realized, and I was like, oh, there's no way out. So I ended up backing out of the hole and then swimming up to the surface. And I ended up only being in just a few feet of water at this stage, but there were still fish. I think that's a small butterfish there. There was a red moki earlier. There was tons of stuff happening. And yeah, that's where you see where I was like, oh, a little bit too deep, pull back out. And then I was able to surface. Here in a second, you'll see me help put some crays in a bag. This was a 2-hand dive for my dive buddy here. I ended up buying one of these catch bags as after this trip because I was just so impressed by how easy it was to put lobsters or crays in there. So, and then right here, I'll let the audio play out. You can hear my eardrum rupture. Yeah, so pretty much at that moment, that screeching you heard was the sound of my eardrum rupturing. When I did go to the doctor, they said I'd pretty much perforated it in its entirety. And that was just a, easily fixable thing. I was just stupid. I was pushing it too far, but it happens. Anyway, here we're measuring up some crayfish.
Crayfish video.
We ended up catching
Pure crayfish. It's a good one? Yep, it's a good one. Nice.
we ended up catching a couple kawai after this, which you'll see in a sec. But I'll let the audio play out. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you on next week's video. Tons of opaleye action in the next video. Shooting plenty of rocks as usual. So I'll catch you guys there. And see you later.
There we go. First kawai of the trip. What do you think? Good? Pretty good. All right.
Oh,
There you go.
Yeah. Look at that.
Kawai.
Kawai.
A few crays.
Some nice crays.
Yeah.